life in layouts, and today I am back with my Aloha Hawaii series, and I'm going to be using this sketch, but I'm actually going to be taking more inspiration from Allison Davis's layout that she did for sketch support for this sketch. So she actually rotated the sketch, and so that's what I'm going to do as well. And so I'm taking the scraps. This is, I think, the very last layout that I did. And I'm just going through and finding all the pieces that are scraps that I can use. So some of them are full 10 inches, I think is what I ended up putting there. Some of them are not so much, and I tuck them behind the photo and make it work. This photo is actually a photo that I pulled offline. I didn't actually have this photo, but I wanted to document this particular event because this was a pretty significant thing that happened. We actually had to cut our vacation short. Hurricane Irma made an appearance, and we were keeping an eye on her while we were in Hawaii. And if you live in Florida or really anywhere up the East Coast, you know that hurricanes are not something that we as Floridians are too concerned about until like the day before or the day of, because, you know, a week out, it could say that it's going to take a direct hit to the state of Florida, and then, you know, come to it, it's like not even close. So we weren't too concerned about it. It was wishy-washy. It was going everywhere. But when our flight, when Delta canceled our flight and rescheduled it, that's when we were like, maybe we need to take notice in regards to what's going on. So this was the forecast for Hurricane Irma right before she made landfall. And she did make a pretty significant landfall here in the state of Florida. And we got lots of questions because we did cut our trip short. We came home early Saturday morning. We were supposed to come home late Sunday night. And most of the folks were like, well, why didn't you stay and, you know, another day and stay in Hawaii, which would have been perfect. However, we were there because of Kevin's work, and Kevin's work paid for a hotel. That would have been an additional expense, you know, because we were only supposed to stay till Sunday. So it would have been an additional expense to pay for an additional hotel. And we had no idea what was going to happen. There could be, you know, severe damage in the state of Florida that we wouldn't have been able to return for several days. And so we, you know, didn't want to encounter that type of expense. 1 or 2 days, we would have been fine to stay extra in the hotel. But, you know, if we were there an extra week, it can become an expensive trip. And Hawaii is not, you know, it's not a place that you can find, you know, really cheap places to stay because it's such a tourist attraction, or should I say at last minute. So we made the decision to come home early, and we actually flew in to Dallas, and then Kevin and I separated at Dallas because his kids went to Virginia, and I had to go back home, get our home ready. I had to be home for our pet that we had at that point. He flew to Virginia from Dallas, and then I flew on home from Dallas. And there were 5 people on the plane. 5 on this huge Delta airline. And it was a fun flight because the flight attendants were, you know, a lot less stress because there was only 5 of us. So it was a good trip back home. It was nice to, you know, have an entire row to myself and not have to stress about that. So anyways, now that I've given you this whole long story about why I am scrapbooking this photo, what I decided to do, again, following Allison's version of this sketch, I went ahead and added those strips. I went ahead and added the stitching down the length of the layout. And then what I'm doing at the bottom is I just pulled out all of my letter stickers in black, pink, green, pulled out wood veneer, and I am going to be using the question marks in the alphas. And then I also pulled out arrows and all kinds of things that I thought would be appropriate for a hurricane and which way a hurricane was going. So you've got, you know, destination, the scenic view, because she definitely took a scenic view. Just, you know, crazy arrows going all different ways. Some are glittery, some are wood veneer that I'm filling out, and you know, backing with some paper to make them look good, and just filling in all of the pieces that I can. So I do cut out a lot of that because obviously you probably didn't want to see all of that come together, but I do really like the way that this layout turned out, and I think that the, you know, the question marks and the arrows just really make for a fun layout. Plus it got rid of a lot of, you know, those random things, because I don't know how often I use question marks in my title, not very often. So I'm glad that I was able to use some of those up, and some that I don't know that I would ever use, like that one that's on the far left hand side, that real big fat question mark. I don't know that I would use that because that is probably like bigger than the letters themselves. I did go back into my embellishment book and pull out some more arrows because I felt like they were kind of lacking and I had more question marks. Some of the arrows are actually photo corners, and I use those, just pointing them in different directions as well, to just kind of fill in the bottom of this part of the layout. And you also saw me tear the right hand side of the layout as well, and added a little piece of paper over there. All right, so here is my final layout, as well as some close-ups. If you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.